Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, The Evolution of Marketing and Communications. Earn your way in with inbound marketing. My name is Ann Oleson, and I'm a partner at Converge Consulting. I'm delighted to be joined by Jay Kelly, another partner at Converge Consulting today.
Hello, everyone.
Just a bit of information about Converge Consulting. We're a higher education marketing firm that works with around 60 colleges across the United States. Our focus is really inbound marketing, so we spend much of our time talking about Google Analytics, SEO, inbound marketing, and how digital marketing can impact your marketing and recruitments.
So, by a show of hands, how many people would agree with me that higher education marketing has changed in the last 5 to 10 years? That's a little bit of webinar humor there by a show of hands. But anyway, so marketing has changed significantly in the last 5 or 10 years, but it's really changed in higher education. And I won't read this entire slide, but there's some significant pieces why that's happened. And starting in the top left, 30% of higher education students now take at least one online course, and that's, as I think everyone would agree on the phone or in the webinar, that's increasing every year. And then the other big significant piece is that 70% of students are now non-traditional or adult. And by non-traditional, we mean that straight line of 4 years of high school and then without stopping going 4 years to the same higher institution. So that's really not the norm anymore. And then in the background of all that, you can see that the for-profit schools have really gotten a head start on recruiting and advertising, spending over $3 billion a year.
With all of those changes in higher education marketing and the higher ed atmosphere, we know that there are a lot of changes in the way in which your consumers also consume media. One of the statistics, 1 in every 5 minutes spent online is spent on social networking sites. Not really surprising, definitely a trend that we see. Inbound marketing has really evolved over the past 2 years and really focuses on generating inquiries that it's different than traditional outbound marketing practices. Groups that blog, I'm sure you all have been talking about blogging, are 15 times or more per month. They get 5 times more web traffic. So the more frequently you add content and you blog, the more active you are on social networking sites, and the more focused you are on inbound marketing, the more that's going to help with inquiry generation and getting those precious individuals into our recruitment funnel to be able to follow up with.
So the biggest change that's come across, as Vice President Frank Underwood would, as he's staring at us, would agree to, is that the audience really is in control. So think about the way that you watch television, you listen to music, you watch movies. You really do it on your own schedule, and the way you consume marketing messages is really no different.
Absolutely. So, what is the definition of inbound marketing? Several years ago, Brian Halligan at HubSpot really termed the coin and coined the phrase inbound marketing. Inbound marketing is all about earning the attention of prospects. So, instead of sending one message out to millions of individuals, it's really about sending specific and generating specific content that individuals are interested in and really earning the attention of those prospects. It's making yourself easy to be found through SEO and search engine optimization. And it's really drawing those students and alumni to your website by producing custom content that is valuable and that they find to be beneficial and useful. As I mentioned before, Brian Halligan at HubSpot really coined the term inbound marketing. HubSpot is a marketing automation software company, and they really began the philosophy of talking about inbound marketing. And inbound marketing is really focused on attracting strangers through blogs, keywords, search engine optimization, and social media, bringing those and attracting those strangers to become visitors, converting them on your website through forms, calls to action, and landing pages, turning those conversions into inquiries that you then have the opportunity to communicate with. And inbound marketing is all about generating content, generating interest enough so that those individuals opt into your emails and your workflows and those communications that you're looking for. and then converting those individuals and delighting them with events, with social sharing, and with smart content, and helping for them to become promoters of your institution.
So, inbound marketing has four basic pillars that we're going to spend our time chatting about today. And you can see them here starting in the top left. Google Analytics, being able to measure all of your efforts, being social media, and we'll spend some time diving into that one. Content, being relevant, being in the right place at the right time with the right message, and most importantly, SEO, getting found.
And we'll also leave you at the end of each one of these topical discussions with a couple of questions that you can take back to your institution to help guide the discussion about inbound marketing.
So here are some statistics that really really kind of flesh out the main reason to show up on page one of SEO. A lot of times you want to be first, but if you're showing up on page one, you'll see here you make some significant inroads. So you can see here 75% of searchers never go past page one. 53% of all searchers click on the very first link on page one, and 94%, virtually 94% of search choose organic over paid when searching, and particularly when it comes to purchases. So really important to show up on page one.
Excellent. And search engine optimization is all about getting found and getting found for those words that don't necessarily have your name in them. So maybe a student's searching for a master's of business program or a journalism program in the Northeast. Being able to rank and show up in search engine optimization for those specific terms is what the goal is, to be found wherever prospective students, parents, donors, and alumni are searching for you. We always like to talk about when we're presenting on inbound marketing about Google and their love with animated characters. Over the past few years, they have changed the game of search engine optimization with their penguin and panda update as well as hummingbird. And if you are not familiar with these, something good to Google and learn a little bit more about.
So as Google continues to let animals out of the petting zoo and continually upgrade or update their algorithms, really what you want to think about is how do you future proof and make sure that you're not going to be penalized and you're always going to show up, near the top. So if you think of it that way, history of the SEO tactics, hummingbird, content is really king. So if you think of the way that people search now, and I'm sure a lot of people on the webinar, the same thing. The old way is how do I rank for this query? How do I match specific keywords? And that's not really the way people search anymore. The real trick to this, so to speak, is how do I best answer the questions users may have? And we'll go a little deeper in that in solving that question as well. But really, what you want to answer questions, but rather than match up with specific keywords.
Excellent. And one of our marketing strategist's favorite Twitter followers is Cyrus Shepard. And love this tweet from him: value is future proof and algorithm proof. So the great thing is, if you're doing search engine optimization in the right way, what you essentially are doing is building website content for the future that is answering people's questions and is allowing you to get to those top places in search on Google.
So modern SEO tactics, as I had just said, what you want to do is you want to develop high-level strategic themes rather than matching one keyword or lots of keywords. And here's two pretty significant reasons why. Over 70% of the traffic you earn from any given page will come from keywords you didn't try to optimize for. So think about that. Virtually, 2/3 of everything that you're doing, you're not even optimizing for those keywords. The other big percentage there is 15% of all Google searches, over 500 million a day, have never been seen before. So you can't optimize for those because they've not been used before. So two really significant statistics for modern SEO tactics.
And when you're creating content for your website, when you're evaluating your SEO, anyone who creates content for your website is really impacting your SEO. So whether you are creating a video, a campus visit tour, you're posting images, creating news or press releases or blogs, all of those things are impacting your SEO based on the words and phrases that you use in that specific content, as well as the questions that you're answering. So having a specific strategy for search engine optimization where you have a good idea strategically of what you want to optimize for and how you're going to optimize for that in creation of content is tremendously important. As many of you know, YouTube is the #2 search engine. Everyone seems to be searching YouTube for videos on how to everything from fix my Keurig maker to cut a tangerine. And what's interesting is that YouTube really is, Google really loves video and really embraces YouTube, and your search engine optimization can be heavily impacted by the content that you're putting on YouTube as well. So, thinking about the fact that videos really do have an impact overall on how you're showing up in those rankings. So many of you might say, well, why is search engine optimization important to me when someone types in the university of and the name of your school? Well, the reason why that's important is there are two different types of keywords, branded keywords and unbranded keywords. Those branded keywords are any keyword that has a combination of your name in it. Unbranded keywords are keywords that someone's using to search that don't have a combination of your name. So, business program in the Southeast, top 100 law schools in the United States. Anything that is not related to your specific name or the name of your college or university is an unbranded keyword. And as you might assume, not every prospective student in the United States or abroad might not know specifically what you're good at, what types of programs you have, and the advantages of studying at your university. So it's really important in your keywords to also understand that those unbranded keywords are important to review and have a good understanding of how you're optimizing for them. This is an example through your Google Analytics report. In Google Analytics, you have a keyword report. And if you have Google Analytics set up on your website, which nearly every institution does, you will be able to pull this report. And this is an example from the new school. So you can see that they are ranking for Parsons, the new school, Parsons School of Design, but there are also some terms in their top 10 that they are not necessarily have the name of their school or their institution in. So doing some research to find out how people are getting to your site through those unbranded keywords is really important, as well as looking at what unbranded keywords do you want to be ranking for.
And we'll get into this a little more in depth later, but that will also help you as you're creating your content. What are people searching for? So you really can, optimize that in your content on your site as well.
One of our favorite tools is SEO Moz. And SEO Moz is a tool that allows you to get great visibility into how effective you are on your search engine optimization. So you can see through this report, you can better understand your traffic, your web mentions and interactions, your network size and your domain authority, as well as visits, your social aspects, links, brands, and mentions. And this tool is incredibly effective and important once you start to optimize to get good benchmark data to see where you're improving. So, to follow up on our first pillar, search engine optimization, we'd like to start with a little quiz. Question number 1, have you done a crawl of your site to identify and fix technical SEO errors? And if not, this is one of those key takeaways that you can take back to your institution and ask the members of your team. Have you done keyword research to understand the best way to write about your offerings? And have you optimized copy and metadata on those pages? Many institutions will find that in working on specifically admissions and academic program pages, that understanding how users in the world are looking and searching for keywords is really incredibly important. Have you executed thematic SEO research? Have you developed those 3 to 4 overarching brand messages that your institution can use throughout copy? And many institutions have worked through brand exercises over the past 10 years and really identified specific attributes that they want to be known for and that they want people to be able to find them for. It's important to do this on the web as well as with your other marketing efforts. Do you have a champion, an SEO champion on your campus that is leading the effort? Hopefully, there's one in a specific area of your university that you have access to. SEO is definitely an effort that is best supported by someone who embraces it and stays up to date on the trends, but it's certainly important to have someone who can be your go-to person to help with training of content authors and content editors on your campus marketing teams so that you have the opportunity to really do an effective job of completing and making your SEO as effective as possible. On the last point, do you have an SEO dashboard that you review or that you look at on a monthly basis in your admissions meetings or in your monthly marketing meetings? So some great questions, our top 5 questions in relation to inbound marketing on SEO that you can be asking on your campus.
So that's the first pillar, SEO, getting found. So once you have become found by answering those key questions that people are typing into the search bar, the second most important thing there, once you are found, is being relevant. And we're going to talk about content strategy. So once that prospective student finds your website, you want to make sure that you're answering the questions that they're looking for. There's that show of hands thing again. I have to scratch that from webinars. So really, when we talk about content strategy, the most important thing, who has a plan and where does that school's content exist? So we do a number of projects with schools around the country, and this is how we start. We start with, who has a content strategy plan and where does it exist? And you'd be surprised at some of the places that it does. Content strategy really became in vogue in the 90s. If you think about the evolution of your school's website, probably back in the 90s, early to mid 90s, schools just kind of threw everything that they had up on the website just to make sure it was there. And then from there, you have to evolve and think about, okay, well, does it make sense? So the content strategy really refers to the planning, development, and management of the content. And as I said, really kind of came in vogue in the 90s. But if we think about marketing and advertising, does content strategy really differ from brand strategy? I propose that it really doesn't. And your institution's brand is intricately connected to everything else, which means the brand strategy really can't exist without a good, sound content strategy to support it.
Absolutely. And content strategy certainly is part of that overarching brand strategy. As we think about content strategy at Converge, we think about it as a cyclical process, but also think of 4 key areas. So as you start to think about content strategy at your institution, thinking about analyzing the content that you have, who owns that content, and who's the target audience. Big important questions to ask. And a great place to start this is on your website, thinking about what content exists within your recruitment, marketing, messaging sections of your website. Who is responsible for updating of all those academic program pages? And then who specifically are you targeting? And are there images, visual content, as well as verbal content that's really resonating with the audience that you've identified? Oftentimes, we'll see many institutions who are targeting adult students and graduate students who have lots of pictures of students sitting on campus in the quad. And when adult and graduate students come to your website, oftentimes that's not the exact image that might resonate with them. So thinking about what content's there and is it resonating with your audience. The second part, strategize. So what content should you be creating? What information are people looking for? And a lot of this can be gathered through focus groups and through discussions, looking at what are the most frequently asked questions. Your admissions counselors oftentimes hold the keys to what content should be created. How will it be structured? Can we present it in an interesting way through an infographic or through a video that allows us to tell the story in a more impactful way? How will I find it, and how are we going to measure it? As you can see, our company is all about measurable results with memorable marketing. So every aspect of what we talk about always talks about that measurement piece. And then as we create the content, having a very strategic approach. So someone comes to you and says, all right, I need new content on our website about this new master's program that we're offering. Well, who is the audience? What is the purpose? What is the specific message or point of differentiation? What do we want them to learn or take away? And then what is the best format to really share that information so that at a glance, they have a good understanding of what we're trying to communicate? Our last aspect of the content strategy pillar really focuses on measurement. So how are you doing with your SEO, with your Google Analytics, with your goal conversions? What can you learn by using website analytics tools in order to know if your content's effective or not? So as we mentioned before, analyze is that first step. And when we look at content specifically on the web, thinking about all that content that maybe exists out there, but you don't revisit too tremendously often. So thinking about webinars, infographics, blog posts, and videos. All of those things have been created in our content that could absolutely, based on the effectiveness of it, be shared in other venues or mediums, and also should be things that you want to think about utilizing in other communications, driving people to that content from emails and from other communications.
And then strategizing what content should be created, how will users find it, and again, how will it be measured, as Ann mentioned. When we talk content strategy in presentations or with specific clients, one of the big stumbling blocks to having or executing a sound content strategy is it's a massive undertaking. We've talked to schools that, did you analyze your content and all that exists? And the answer is yes. And it's usually, how did you do it? Well, it's an Excel sheet with about 72 tabs on it, right? It's a really overwhelming thing to think about doing. One of the things that we want to have you keep in mind is that marketing should be the hub of the wheel, as you see on this slide, but marketing shouldn't be the department that's creating all the content. With higher education, every higher education institution we work with is just rich with content, and it comes from a number of different places: senior leadership, faculty, financial aid, even IT sometimes, believe it or not, has some good content. So everyone should be kind of feeding into that hub, but marketing should be, as Ann mentioned before, the champion in getting that all brand consistent and going in the right direction.
Absolutely. So some of the things that we like to think about with colleges is that content process. So if I'm requesting new information to be put online about an academic program, what is the process? Do I email that to marketing? Is it created with who creates the copy, the design, who does the interviews, who's that subject matter expert who can really answer those questions? What's the approval process? Back and forth in relation to the different individuals who need to approve this, from compliance to individuals and faculty within different departments. And then what's the timeline for publishing this? So when you really start to look at visually what the content process looks like, oftentimes you can see why it takes maybe more than a few days to develop new content for your website. And by outlining this process, you really get a clear idea of what needs to happen in order for it to be a streamlined, effective process at your institution.
And that also helps. We work with an institution that uses that process, and the feedback was that it really alleviates a lot of those kind of pants on fire requests that I need to get this on the homepage tomorrow. If you think through that process, and you help that person that's doing the requesting think about, okay, maybe that's not the right place for it, or maybe this already exists somewhere else. So that's a really good kind of benchmark for a process to kind of stop those fire drills.
Absolutely. When you're thinking about marketing your program and or your specific area of expertise at a university, oftentimes we will work with colleges, and one of the things that we like to do is develop personas. So to develop that fictional representation of who the individual is that we're communicating with. And this really, really helps everyone from content authors to designers determine what should that visual content look like, what should that verbal content look like, and what questions can I be addressing? So as you can see here, we have an immersion program that's executive education that we are targeting here towards a middle-aged man who is focused on continuing education and executive education, and how can he continue to future-proof his career by taking this immersion program. We're also targeting a 25-year-old female that's single here. And as you can see, these are very, very different audiences. Oftentimes they might have different goals and different challenges, but by identifying what their goals are, what their challenges are, who influences them, how to answer questions to their objections, and understanding their behavior will allow us to understand maybe a Twitter ad that addresses one of the goals of this young woman will be a more effective way in which to reach her with effective content than this individual here who's really focused on executive education and not going to another executive retreat in Orlando.
So we've analyzed what content exists, where it exists. We've strategized on what we need that will help keep our content strategy in line with our brand strategy. So now it's time to create. So when we think of creating, ask yourself these 6 things and make sure that you're answering these questions before you do. Number 1, what's the purpose of the content? What are we trying? What do we want the person that's reading your content? What do we want them to do after they've seen or read it? Who's the audience? Back to Ann's personas. What brand messages are we communicating? Are they consistent? What do we want the user to learn? And what's the best format to deliver the content? Sometimes it's video versus the written word. And again, how will we measure the success? Always with an eye toward measurement.
One of the largest challenges that I think universities have are there are a lot of people who are creating content. And oftentimes there are some tools that will allow you the opportunity to better organize this content that you're creating. So this is a great example of a content calendar. And this is really focused on who the editor, author, due date, publish date, and status of this specific piece of content is, the title of the content, what it includes, what keywords are we going to focus on when we're creating this content, who our audience is or a persona, and then what the offer is. Oftentimes that offer or that call to action is left off, and really thinking through if for each piece of new content that we're creating, we think about these specific areas, and if we map in our calendar with dates how this content's being created, it's a much more strategic approach. I believe this is a free learning tool from HubSpot. They have a lot of great learning tools online, and this is a content calendar template that they have that I would highly suggest if you aren't using a strategic content calendar that you might want to look at. It's always important, as I mentioned before, in relation to development of content, especially for online content, to make sure that you are including really valuable information such as the URL, the page titles, those meta descriptions, H1 tags, all those things that are important for SEO should also be part of your effective content strategy. So you can see inbound marketing pillar number 1 is really focused on SEO, which leads itself just directly into content strategy, and they're all interwoven in making an effective inbound marketing plan.
So remembering back to point number 5, which is what was the best format to deliver the content, we borrowed this from NPR, which coined the phrase COPE: create once, publish everywhere. So remember in your social networks, remember that you now have this content. Where is it best going to be shared and utilized? So think about Twitter, think about your Facebook page, and really kind of push that content out everywhere.
And we see at many institutions content that exists in one place that could be shared and is really powerful, that could be repurposed in a number of ways. So thinking about those most published, those most viewed blog posts, thinking about that president's speech that was really amazing, or that video that's really impactful, how can you take those really valuable pieces of content and publish them and utilize them in different areas to have maximum reach within your institution? And then it's back to good old measurement. So thinking about measuring the effectiveness of content, starting with your SEO report and keyword rankings. Is your content working and doing what you want it to do? Is it converting? Are your calls to action converting? If you have a blog, is that referral traffic really creating conversions? And then your Google Analytics, developing a custom dashboard that allows you the opportunity on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to understand what content is effective and working. So it's time for quiz number 2, content strategy. Do you have a strategic approach to the development of new content? Have you identified a process for requesting new content and which campus stakeholders participate in that process? Do you use content templates when creating or requesting new content that identify your audience, the user goal, and the message? Do you utilize personas that help you to focus that message on that audience? Do you believe in and execute on the COPE philosophy? And I would encourage you just to think about a couple pieces of content maybe in the past year that have been powerful that you could repurpose in other areas. And do you have a regular process of assessing the effectiveness of that? And if you don't, that's probably one of the best places to start, is thinking through how can we evaluate and measure before we create any more content, the success of our current content.
So 2 pillars down. So using a sound SEO strategy, we're getting found by our prospective students. With a sound content strategy that's on point with our brand strategy, we're relevant. So we have that content. We're answering the questions that they're looking for once they get into our site. The third pillar we want to talk about today is being social. So making sure that you have a sound social media strategy to go along with those first two pillars.
We have a great infographic on our website that was created by a guest author, and it talks about social media. In social media, I think everyone is engaged in Facebook pages and LinkedIn's university pages and figuring out how to use Pinterest and Instagram and even Snapchat. And I think it's interesting when you start to dig into some of the metrics related to social media. Social media and social media sharing really impacts your inbound marketing, it impacts your SEO. It's really integral to the content that you're developing that you are giving people places to share that, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or ways to interact with it through likes and retweets and favorites. And as you can see, the average college student spends 123 minutes online every day. 31 of those minutes spent on social media. So definitely meeting your audience where they are, and a very, very powerful piece of an effective inbound marketing strategy. Some of the things that we're seeing in social media that really help with social sharing are videos. So lots of video posted on Facebook, posted in different areas that has an impact and helps you really, through an effective content channel, tell your story in the best way. And lots of infographics. So lots of infographics that help to put that content in a very visually interesting way and communicate a specific message.
And blogging, if you don't have a blog on your site, we highly recommend and encourage you to do so. It's a really important piece of SEO, and it's an important piece of telling your story. Really ties in great with SEO, as we said. And one of the most important things is to vary the perspective of the person writing the blog. So from a student perspective or a student voice to a faculty voice, make sure you're not just continually kind of selling, but really, telling your story of your institution and why your institution is different from others. And again, using a combination of content, news, events, alumni stories, keeping it fresh. It's a full-time task to have a good, sound blog strategy, but well worth the work that you put into it.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out to the folks at Northwest Nazarene. They have done a phenomenal job with their blog strategy in really segmenting their audiences and creating content that's relevant by audience. Lead with Love is their theology program blog, and they have developed some really interesting stories and really helped to bring the voice of their student to life through this blog. They have an ethical leadership blog for the MBA program. So, again, very brand consistent, tied to their messages and their points of differentiation. But these two blogs are very different for that graduate and adult student than the let's do the college thing again, that junior kind of prospective student who has a much different level of importance in relation to the things that she's looking at in relation to her institution and what she wants to see on a blog. So thinking about how your blog can really be effective from an SEO perspective, utilizing your keywords in that blog strategy, thinking about how you can also use that blog from a content strategy and a social media perspective. Some of the key social media metrics that you want to look at: referrals from social networks. So there is a way, in fact, to measure ROI from social networks in looking at how much of your traffic is being referred by different posts and different content from those different mediums. Looking at what content's actually driving conversion. So if you put on a Facebook post that talks about driving that prospective student's application, you can set up goals and analytics that allow you to be able to track and know which of those social networks are actually helping to convert visitors. And then thinking about social reach and engagement. So, how do you keep those individuals engaged in your content and keep them coming back to really create that community that's going to help with both recruitment and retention?
So our third quiz of the day, the social media quiz. So number one, we use social media monitoring to listen for trends, opportunities, and competitive advantages. There's a number of social media monitoring tools out there, from very surface and on the top of monitoring versus some really in-depth tools as well. Number two, we have a blog or several blogs that are creating new content weekly for our institution. We recommend weekly would be a great schedule for blogs. Number three, we have a social media strategy in place that's been communicated to stakeholders and is being followed. We have shared social media calendar that allows us to coordinate channel, message, time frame, tracking codes. And then we have an identified champion. There's that champion again for social media on our campus. And as we like to do, measuring everything that we do. We have a measurement system in place to know where we are tracking towards our social media goals. So those are the questions for social media and a sound strategy.
Absolutely. So how are we doing on our quizzes today?
Exactly. Show of hands. So last pillar. So SEO, content strategy, social media. So Google Analytics, and we want to really spend some time kind of diving into this because, as we said, we like to measure everything that we do in inbound marketing. The first thing to remember with Google Analytics is it's a continuous process. It's something that never really is completed because you're continually, changing what you're doing. So you're measuring, you're analyzing, and then you're changing. You're making sure what you're doing that's working, you're doing more of, and what's not, you're testing again.
What's really important in your Google Analytics is to make sure that you have a good understanding of user path. So when someone comes into your website, when you create content for them, you give them an opportunity to follow a path that you can track and measure. So this is a great example of someone receiving an email, going to a landing page, looking at degree options, inquiring. Then we want them to come to an open house and apply. That's kind of the user path overall of how we would like people to engage with us. All of these things can be tracked and measured in your Google Analytics if you're creating those opportunities for them to engage online.
So one of the things to remember, and this is a sample of a Google Analytics report, is that analytics doesn't start with a report. You really need a sound strategy of what you want to measure and then kind of go from there. I know sometimes we do analytics workshops around the country, and the people that are attending say their boss comes in and says, I need an analytics report. So rather than just handing them a report that has a number of pieces of measurement on there that really don't mean anything without context, you really need to start with a plan.
Absolutely. So this is a great example of starting with a plan, and maybe everyone's not on board, but getting as many of your ducks in a row as you can in order to have that discussion. And sometimes what helps with creation of that plan is an analytics framework. So starting with your business objective, what is it specifically that you are trying to measure? What are the, maybe it's to create additional inquiries for your recruiters to work throughout the recruitment process. And you can definitely give key benchmarks and numbers to those. Create specific website goals that will help with the generation of that. So creating a goal on your website inquiry form that allows you to understand this web inquiry came from email marketing, or came from Facebook traffic, or came from College Week Live, or a different lead aggregator source. Looking at those key performance indicators. So what are those specific numbers that you want to get to? Targets allows you the opportunity to really look and dig further, as well as segments, into the specific audience. So looking at what geography are these people from, and are the people that you really target and that you want to complete these types of actions and activities, are they really doing what you want them to do? So this is a great framework to work from that allows you the opportunity to think through in a very logical way. If you're looking for more inquiries in that MBA program, how to think about that.
And with targets and segments, it allows you to get down, to the geographic level, international versus national, one state versus another state, or a region versus another region. You can really dive down pretty deeply and make sure that you're reaching that target audience and that segment that you really want to.
And there's a great report in analytics called referral traffic. And this is an excellent report to review because it allows you to tell where your visitors are coming from, whether it's search engines or email marketing, or whether it's social media. It allows you to understand what they're doing as they visit, as well as how long they're staying on those pages and who that traffic is, if it's new visits or returning visits. This also allows you to see where you should put your marketing dollars and what's actually converting for you. Creation of dashboards is incredibly important. Dashboards allow you the opportunity at a glance to go in and be able to understand your inbound marketing. So as we talked about at the beginning about attracting that new traffic to your website, converting that traffic once it gets there, and then keeping them engaged, creating dashboards that are really related to those goals and that traffic is something that will be really helpful as you evaluate your inbound marketing. This is just an example of an inquiry form. So Notre Dame has a subscribe to my daily gospel online, and it asks for some specific information. And they've set specific goals around this. And this is one great way in which they've chosen to measure and better understand kind of who their traffic is and where they're coming from and where they're getting these new subscriptions to this engagement metric. The last thing to talk about with Google Analytics is Universal Analytics. And Universal Analytics is something that Google has now rolled out of beta. It is something that is going to allow you some great capabilities because it will give you more visibility into your users. So one of the things that Google Analytics, Universal Analytics allows you to do is track across devices. So Google used to look at someone who utilized their laptop and their iPad and their mobile phone as different users. With Universal Analytics, you'll have visibility and Google will recognize that user as one user, not three independent users. Universal Analytics, we have a couple of different blog posts and pieces of information on our website, but it's something that it's easy to apply to your website. It's something that you definitely want to start thinking about a transition plan, and it will allow you great access to not only visibility about who your users are, but also tracking across domains and more detailed information.
We have some clients that have installed Universal Analytics already, and you can have that and have that running in conjunction with your current Google Analytics. So it doesn't replace it yet, and I think you have a couple of years before Google Analytics will all switch over to Universal.
Absolutely. So in relation to our final pillar in analytics and the quiz, do you have goals set up within Google Analytics that allow you to measure the effectiveness and conversions of your marketing? Something that will be incredibly important as you move forward with measurement. Have you completed a Google Analytics assessment? Do you know what's technically set up right or set up wrong with your analytics? Do you have those goals and those different conversion metrics as well as reports created? Are you using this information? So, do you weekly, monthly review this information through dashboards that provide you with actionable, historical month after month data that allows you the opportunity to see what's happening? And do you have a Google Analytics champion? Do you have someone on your campus that's that Google Analytics ninja who really understands Google Analytics and who is willing to answer your questions and help you get those goals set up as well as your weekly and monthly reports set up?
So, in wrapping up, the definition of inbound marketing simply is earning the attention of your prospects. So again, that's earning the attention by having content that's rich and answering their questions. Second point, making yourself easy to be found. So as SEO is a big key to that, making sure that you're found. And then last thing is drawing students and alumni to your website by producing custom content that they value and again answers their questions.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, we just wanted to mention we're hosting a marketing conference in Nashville, October 13th through the 15th, that is focused in much more detail on these topics. So the topics will be brand marketing, digital marketing, inbound marketing, as well as research. This is targeted specifically to the graduate and adult population. One of the keynotes of the conference is Kristen Hall, who's the head of education at Google. She'll be sharing some proprietary research on search and mobile trends. Carol Aslanian and her team will be there sharing some new proprietary findings. And it really is the only adult marketing conference that is focused on what's new and what's next in higher education marketing. Thank you again for your time today. We would love to answer any questions that you may have at this point in time. One of the questions that we had is, will we be getting a copy of this presentation? Yes, we will be sending this presentation out to you within the next day or so once it's converted via our webinar technology. We'll hang around for a few extra minutes if there's anyone who has any additional questions. Or good jokes. Okay, here is a question. What is the magic number of times to blog per month? That is a really great question. the people in the industry will say that it's great to blog once a day. We know that that's absolutely something that's not attainable for most colleges. We often suggest that individuals or institutions blog once a month. We think that once a week, sorry.
Yeah, once a week.
Thinking about once a week. We feel that once a week blogging allows you the opportunity to keep your prospects engaged throughout the funnel. It also allows you the opportunity to share additional stories and to keep that fresh and new content on your website. We know that writing for higher education websites is much more precise in that it needs to be incredibly well written and reflective of your brand as an institution.
So to Ann's point, 3 to 4 times a month will really help move the needle with SEO as well.
Okay. A note from Kim. This has been helpful. Thank you. Who developed the schedule calendar? HubSpot. So the calendar that we showed today was developed by HubSpot. Again, HubSpot is a marketing automation software. They provide a ton of great resources about blogging and personas on their website. So I definitely check out their resources online. There are also some, I think, good calendar functions out there that are free, kind of open source systems that you have that may be available to search. Have any suggestions?
Yeah, okay. HubSpot would be the best.
Another question: where's the best place to start with inbound marketing? The best place to start with inbound marketing, we feel, is by answering those key questions. So within the end of each section, there was kind of an inbound marketing quiz. But if you look at those specific questions by area, you can look at the kind of hot points of each specific topic area and what you should be focusing on. There's also an inbound marketing quiz on our website under the resources section that you can take that quiz and take that to different individuals at your institution to share with them. They also ask, who needs to buy into the idea on campus? Definitely the people who are in charge of your marketing efforts, as well as recruitment. The majority of the time we spend helping colleges and universities to better and more effectively generate inquiries and help engage those inquiries throughout your funnel. So typically a team of marketing and admissions that are working together on any type of recruitment initiative are important, but you also need to have the buy-in and the help from your web team. You'll need help from them with SEO, with technically fixing your website. You'll need help with the content developers and editors and authors on your campus as well.
And setting up analytics as well to measure everything.
And the best way to structure this team is really to develop, I think, those kind of 5 or 6 key individuals who have a set goal. So maybe your goal is, we want to develop an effective inbound marketing strategy on our campus. Bringing those 5 or 6 people that we mentioned, IT, your webmaster, your marketing champions, as well as the people who are doing marketing for admissions, as well as admissions, that would be a great team to come bring to the table and start an inbound marketing monthly kind of task force that really learns about inbound marketing, evaluates how you're doing now, and what you need to do to move forward. A great question by Marita. What is the best way to stay up to date on SEO changes? SEO Moz, M-O-Z, is a great resource. They actually have whiteboard sessions. And this is all free research and free resources that keep you updated on what's happening in the industry in relation to SEO. They also have a 30-day subscription. So you have the opportunity, if you're not quite ready to engage in a subscription yet, to better understand kind of what some of the changes are that are happening. So that's a great one to look at, SEO Moz. Another question we have: do you think an inbound marketing approach can work well for professional schools, say law schools? They draw from a more narrow prospect pool. That's a great question. We actually were at the Law School Admissions Council meeting several weeks ago presenting on inbound marketing, and there was great interest from a number of law schools that we think that it's incredibly important for law schools to engage in inbound marketing. So we absolutely feel that targeted professional schools, sometimes it's even easier to implement inbound marketing at your institution because you have a narrower focus and maybe fewer individuals that are participating in these types of things. Are there other questions? Some great questions by our audience members. If there are any other questions, Jay and I's both Twitter handles as well as email addresses are here. We would be happy to answer any of those questions. If you go to our website, convergeconsulting.org, which is the end of our email address, there are a number of blog posts and video recordings related to inbound marketing. It's our favorite topic to discuss with higher ed, and we really feel that we have the privilege to work with a lot of great institutions who are really embracing inbound marketing and starting to see some significant results from inbound marketing efforts. Thank you so
Great.
much for your time today.
Thank you, everyone.